Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the Lore of League of Legends. In this episode, we're going to be carrying on with our final champion from Mount Targran. Fighting as a warrior of the Lunari, a faith quashed in the lands around Mount Targran, and yet another figure imbued with an aspect from beyond. Without further ado, I present to you the lore of Diana, Scorn of the Moon. Enjoy. Sheltering from a storm on the unforgiving slopes of Mount Targran after being drawn there by dreams of a mountain and the promise of revelation, Diana's mother and father were exhausted, overwhelmed by blinding storm winds. It was there, beneath the cold, pitiless moonlight, that Diana came into the world as her mother breathed her last. Hunters from the nearby Solari temple found her the next day as the storm passed and the sun reached its zenith. Diana was wrapped in bare skin and cradled in the arms of her dead father. The hunters brought her to the temple, where the foundling child was presented to the sun and given the name Diana. She was raised as one of the Solari, becoming an initiate and raised to venerate the sun in all aspects. She learned the legends of the sun and trained every day with the Raharak, the Solari's warrior Templars. The elders of the Solari taught that all life came from the sun, that the light of the moon was false, offering no nourishment and crafting shadows in which only creatures that lurked in the darkness found succor. Yet Diana found the light from the moon entrancing and beautiful in a way that the harsh sun could never match. Every night the young girl would wake from dreams of climbing the mountain to pick night-blooming flowers and watch freshwater springs turn silver in the moonlight. The years went by and Diana found herself ever at odds with the elders and their teachings. She couldn't help but question what she was told, always suspecting there was more that went unsaid in every teaching. As she grew, Diana's sense of isolation only became stronger as childhood friends distanced themselves from her. At night, watching the silver moon rise with the impossibly distant summit, she felt more and more of an outcast. The urge to climb the mountain flanks was almost an itch that could never be scratched, but everything she had been taught since birth told her the mountain would claim more than just her life should she ever try. Only the most worthy and heroic dared make such an ascent. With every passing day, Diana felt more alone and more certain that some vital aspect of her life remained unfulfilled. Her first clue as to what might be came when she was sweeping the temple library as a punishment for arguing with one of the elders. A glint of light behind a sagging bookcase drew Diana's eyes, and upon investigation, she discovered the partially burned pages of an ancient manuscript. Diana took the pages and read them beneath the full moon that very night. What she discovered unlocked a door into her very soul. Diana learned of an all but extinct group known as the Lunari, whose faith saw the moon as a source of life and balance. From what she could understand from the fragmented text, the Lunari spoke of the eternal cycle, day and night, sun and moon, essential for universal harmony. This was a revelation, and as she looked beyond the moonlight temple walls, she saw an elderly woman wrapped in a bearskin cloak, trudging up the far path that eventually led to the mountain's summit. The woman saw Diana and called for help, saying that she had to reach the mountain top before morning, an ambition that Diana knew was utterly impossible. Diana's desire to help the woman and climb the mountain warred with everything the Solari taught. The mountain's ascent was for the worthy, and Diana had never felt worthy of anything. Again, the woman asked for her help, and this time Diana did not hesitate. She scrambled over the walls and took the woman's arm, leading her up the mountain, amazed that someone so aged had made it this far. They climbed for hours, above the clouds and into the chill air where the moon and the stars glittered like diamonds. Despite her age, the woman kept climbing, urging Diana onwards when she stumbled or when the air grew thin and cold. As the night wore on, Diana lost track of time as the stars wheeled overhead and all but the mountain faded from view. Together Diana and the woman climbed ever upwards, and each time her steps faltered, she drew strength from the pale glow of the moon. Eventually Diana fell to her knees, exhausted and weary beyond imagining. Her entire body was strained to the limits of exhaustion, but when she looked up, it was to see that somehow they had reached the mountaintop, a feat that should not have been possible in a single night. The summit was wreathed in cascades of spectral illumination, veils of brilliant light, spirals of vivid colour, and the glimmering ghost of a vast city of silver and gold hovering in the air. She searched for her companion, but the woman was nowhere to be seen. Only the bearskin cloak that mounted Diana's shoulders suggested that it even existed in the first place. Looking into the light, Diana saw the promise of the emptiness within her being fulfilled, the promise of acceptance and the chance to be part of something greater than she could ever imagine. This is what she had sought all her life without truly knowing it. Fresh vitality flowed through her limbs as she rose to her feet, taking a hesitant step towards the incredible vista, her resolve growing stronger with every breath. The light surged and Diana screamed as it poured into her. A union with something vast and inhuman, impossibly ancient and powerful. The sensation was painful, but also joyous. A moment or an eternity, it was both revelatory and hallucinatory. When the light faded, the sense of loss was an ache like nothing she had known before. Diana stumbled down the mountain, oblivious to her surroundings, until she found herself before a cleft in the mountainside. A cave mouth that would have been invisible but for the moonlight shadows. Cold and needing shelter for the night, Diana sought refuge within. Inside, however, the narrow cleft widened into the crumbling ruin of what might have once been a temple or vast audience chamber. Its crumbling walls were painted in faded frescoes depicting warriors of silver and gold fighting back to back against an unending host of grotesque monsters as the sky rained comets of searing light. At the centre of the chamber stood a crescent sword and a suit of armour unlike any other, a mail shirt of spun silver rings and wondrously crafted war plate of polished steel. Reflected in the gleam of the armour, Diana saw her once sable hair now as purest white, and a runestone on her forehead with incandescent light. She recognised the symbol so exquisitely etched into the plates of the armour, the same symbol depicted in the pages of the burned manuscript she found in the library. This was Diana's moment of truth. She had a choice before her: turn away from her destiny, or choose to embrace it. She reached out, and as her fingers touched the cold steel of the armour, her mind exploded with images of lives she had never lived, memories she had never experienced, and sensations she had never known. Scraps of ancient history raged like a blizzard in her mind, secret knowledge she but dimly grasped, and innumerable futures scattered like wind-blown dust. The visions faded, and Diana saw she was now fully clad in the silver warplate, which fit her as though wrought especially for her. Her mind was still afire with newly acquired knowledge, but much of it remained frustratingly out of reach, almost like a picture half in shadow, half in light. She was still Diana, but she was also something more, something eternal. Feeling vindicated with this new knowledge, Diana left the mountain cave and made her way back towards the Solari temple, knowing she had to tell the elders what it was she had learnt. She was met at the temple gates by Leona, the master of the Raharak and the Solari's greatest warrior. Diana was brought before the temple elders, who listened with mounting horror as she told of what she had learned of the Lunari. She finished her tale, and the elders immediately denounced her as a heretic, a blasphemer and peddler of false gods. She was sentenced to death. Diana was appalled. The elders had rejected what was so patently true. They had turned their backs on revelations that had been brought from the very summit of the holy mountain. Diana's fury built at the willful blindness, and blazing orbs of silver fire spun in the air around her. With a scream of rage-fueled frustration, Diana's sword swept out, and where it struck, silver fire burned with killing light. Again and again, Diana lashed out, and when her fury had ebbed, she saw the carnage she had unleashed. The elders were dead, and Leona lay on her back, her armour smoking as though fresh from the forge. Appalled at what she had done, Diana fled the site of the massacre, escaping into the wilds of Mount Targran as the Solari reeled from the savagery of her attack. Now hunted by the warriors of the Raharak, Diana seeks to piece together fragmentary memories of the Lunari hidden within her mind. Driven by half-remembered truths and glimpses of ancient knowledge, Diana has only one truth to cling to: that the Lunari and the Solari need not be foes, that there is a greater destiny for her than that of a simple warrior. What her destiny might be is unknown, but Diana will find it, whatever the cost. And that's all I've got for you this time around. Let me know what you thought of the video by hitting that like button and leaving your feedback in the comment section below the video. I'll leave a link in the description to Diana's original lore as well as the entire Lore of League of Legends playlist. Thanks for watching everyone, and as always, I'll see you next time.